Karthus and Nunu rounding out the bans. Karthus with that global presence in that ultimate, being able to deal so much damage, and Nunu, an extremely strong pick as support.
So now we have all of the bans out. These actually look a little different. I wasn't really expecting Sona, Karthus, Galio, or Nunu bans. So these teams probably know themselves quite well, seeing as they're both of the teams from Poland here. And with a first pick Kennen, that actually doesn't surprise me at all. Thinking all the way back to WCG, this team, who used to be XGBT, picked Kennen almost every game. So they love that champion, especially in the top lane. So first pick there, not a big surprise.
Yeah, and Kennen being able to put so much crowd control out with those stuns. And we see Acer grabbing Corki Shen right away. Shen, such a versatile champion as well, being able to split push, being able to potentially jungle as well as top lane, and MYM responding with an insta-lock Morgana.
Yeah, that Shen pick is great to pick this early because he can go in the jungle or in top lane. And these are actually really just pretty strong picks. The Kennen Morgana is actually something they ran in WCG with a Vayne. So it was kind of just a protect the Vayne comp. And we could maybe see something like that again. The combined peel of both of those champions with a really strong AD carry like Vayne is pretty damn potent. So you know, I guess they're just going to go with Graves in this scenario, but being able to get to Graves is going to be extremely tough for Acer because that frontline protection of Kennen the Morgana really makes it easy for the AD carry on Meteor Makers.
Yeah, and not just that, the Alistar bringing in so much crowd control, so much tankiness, that area of effect knockup, as well as being able to knock anybody from Acer out of a fight immediately. That's going to be so powerful. And Graves, just a stable, strong bottom lane. He has that ultimate. He's going to be able to burst down, as well as being able to do that slow and eliminate vision.
So really just looking at these picks across each other a little bit, I'm surprised that Acer hasn't picked a support yet, because very frequently you see teams picking supports early since they're fairly hard to counterpick. They've actually went ahead and picked all of their solo lanes, what it looks like already, as well as their jungler, so they won't get to counterpick here at the end. And as far as the AD carry picks go, I'm expecting also a lot of Corki and a lot of Graves. They're extremely strong, and they're also extremely versatile AD carries, because you can't really think of someone who matches up poorly against either one of them. They both have very quick shot dashes, they both have large amounts of burst damage and trade, and they scale pretty well compared to other AD carries. So, you know, pretty standard picks. The most exciting thing about this is just the area of effect from MYM. That is a team fight team if I've ever seen one. So they may have changed their strategy from really strong laning to just like, hey, why don't we just group up and win team fights? Because Amumu, Morgana, Kennen, if they just all press R in team fights, you know, there's a good chance they'll win those. Yeah, absolutely. And so many of different people are going to be able to initiate on the fight. You know, you can get the Amumu bandage, you can get the Morgana binding. Kennen, if he gets that Zonius, he could potentially flash in and ult, or Ali could get that flash pulverize. So really excited to see MYM. As we had mentioned, Acer, they really want to be aggressive early game. It looks like MYM is going to want to be aggressive in these team fights. Yeah, I just want to see how Acer reacts to MYM's team comp, because the thing with when you have that much team fight potential and all of your spells are area of effect, that means you're actually slightly stronger in kind of straight up fights, or slightly weaker in straight up 1v1s. So it's really going to be all about MYM trying to control the map in team fights, and Acer trying to control the map with skirmishes, map control, and winning lanes. Yeah, and Acer also, with that Orianna having an ultimate that can be so devastating. I believe they had a Shyvana that was potentially spec'd to go top. Right. How do you think that matchup would go with a Kennen? Kennen has that long-range harass, however, yeah, it's a bit dangerous if Shyvana is able to close that gap. Kennen should have a really large advantage in that lane. He can just use his Lightning Rush whenever Shyvana tries to just jump in on him, so Kennen's zoning potential in that lane is actually really high. Shyvana's pretty much going to have to wait in the tower to get creeps. That's a really large advantage for Kennen if that is in fact the lane they decide to go for. They did have Shen and Shyvana, so I wouldn't be surprised if they put Shen top and Shyvana in the jungle, because at least Shen can get minions from range. If they run Shyvana in that lane, they're not going to have a good time. Yeah, and if they decide to choose the Shyvana to be in the jungle, Amumu, pretty blue dependent early game, so it'll be interesting to see if that Shyvana jungle, if they should choose that, would be aggressively counter jungling and going for that early jungle pressure. Yeah, so Amumu's extremely weak to early counter jungling, and Shyvana is extremely strong at early counter jungling. So that matchup could potentially be disastrous for Meteor Makers. It's really just all about, will they be able to protect Amumu in the jungle versus will Shyvana be able to just invade and get the work done, right?
Yeah, and if they should go with that Shen jungle, that taunt, that dash taunt is so devastating in terms of ganking. He can come from so many different angles, from so many different brush patterns. So I'm really excited to see this match, and especially with the MYM, that area of effect team composition is always so exciting to watch because it can bring a team from 100 to 0 in about 3.5 seconds.
We had the quick little blip there with a slight technical issue. They're now back into the champion select. These bans don't matter. They're just going to be repicking their champions really easily here. So pick and bans don't matter. This is not how it actually went down. The bans were actually much different. The pick strategy was much different. But we should be able to get into this game very shortly. Looking at these team comps, though, I have to say I actually like Acer's team comp a little bit more. It's really going to be all about whether MYM can hold out for the team fight phase, because if they start falling behind, there's really not much they can do. If Acer gets ahead and they can just win team fights against MYM, since MYM's so team fight focused, they're going to be completely lost. So it's really Acer has a much more flexible team composition than MYM.
Yeah, and that Corki Janna bottom lane is going to be able to be so aggressive that Corki's going to be able to jump in, Janna's going to be able to shield him, and you know, the Graves Alistar, the Alistar's gonna be able to mitigate some of that early aggression, but I'll be really excited to see what goes on in that bottom lane.
Yeah, looking at that bottom lane, I actually like Alistar Graves just from an aggression standpoint. The thing about Janna lanes, especially with Corki, having no sustain versus the high poke and like high burst damage of the Graves Alistar means if they do a full-on trade where like kind of no one dies, then the Alistar lane's going to be able to heal up, but the Janna lane isn't, and they actually have very comparable amounts of burst damage at each other, so I do have to give the edge actually to MYM in that bottom lane.
And also with that top lane Kennen, it looks like he's going to be facing off against Shen. So how do you feel that matchup is going to go? We originally said potentially Shyvana, but it looks like with that Smite and Exhaust, Shyvana's going to be in the jungle, so we are almost certainly going to see some early heavy counter jungling.
Yeah, I like that choice to put Shen in the top lane. That just means that once he hits 6, he can impact anywhere on the map. So really, he's not expected to win that lane against Kennen, he's just expected to survive as we're about to load into this game. So it's really all about Kennen trying to impact his will on Shen, and then Shen trying to get to the rest of the map, because Kennen has a big advantage in that lane.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we go. Game 1 of Group A here at ECC Poland. Meet Your Maker versus Acer. An all-Polish affair. Here we go.
All right. As we're loading into this game here, like I said, I really like Acer in this match. I can't wait to see the Orianna, because we have not seen her in competitive play for quite some time. And I just want to see how Celeber does with that Orianna.
Yeah, how do you feel he's going to match up against that Morgana?
It's actually going to be a really farm-heavy lane. The thing with Morgana is she's extremely, extremely hard to gank, but really, you know, easy to get minions against. That pretty much always turns into a farm lane. The only way that that lane is going to get aggressive is if she either lands a binding as Amumu comes in, or if Amumu lands a Banish Toss as Morgana lands the Dark Binding. Orianna's actually going to be quite a bully on Morgana, and Morgana's going to end up sitting on her tower for the majority of this, as we see Alistar deep warding that Wraith Brush as Acer sees the entirety of that ward.
Yeah, that was a great ward from Liebig. Something that we've been talking about a lot is map control as well as ward control. So how do we feel this early warding like this is going to affect this game going down the line?
So the thing with this is, I'm actually surprised that MYM put such an aggressive forward ward in, since they're so worried about the Shyvana counter jungle. The reason they put the ward there actually is Shyvana, since she is a manaless jungler, wants to start Wraiths and then go red. When they put the ward there, they have knowledge of where Shyvana is, which makes them, you know, be able to play passive in the top lane or in the mid lane, as long as they know which which quadrant of the map that Shyvana starts on. I'm actually quite surprised that Acer's not trying to disrupt Amumu's blue buff early on. They probably have something else planned. I'm expecting Shyvana to try some counter jungling pretty much right after the red buff.
Yeah, and speaking of aggressive warding, Liebig actually putting another ward onto Acer's blue buff, so they have complete knowledge of where the Shyvana is going to be going. So
that's actually aggressive warding to prevent counter jungling, because if they keep vision on kind of both sides of Shyvana's jungle, they'll know exactly where Shyvana is / where Shyvana wants to go. And then we also see that one purple ward down kind of below the blue buff, so if Amumu ever wants to walk near that part of the jungle, which I don't think he does, then Acer would have knowledge of it. So definitely really strong wards by MYM. I really like their aggressive warding for defensive purposes.
Yeah, and an interesting choice by the bottom lane. Corki and Janna actually picked up Wolves right when they were going into this bottom lane.
That's something that they've been doing a lot more of. As we know, blue lane gets access to the double golems, so in order to not get completely crushed on experience, a lot of purple teams have started taking wolves, so both bottom lanes actually get a small camp, so you know the other guy doesn't have a huge advantage coming into lane.
Yeah, and we had been saying that, look, LoL Pro was potentially going to be counter jungling, but it looks like Makote is actually trying to steal the double golems, however, going extremely low. So a risky play, but definitely trying to make a statement early in this game.
That's a risky play, but it's actually pretty smart. He knows that Shyvana wants to get counter jungling down by the red, but Amumu's probably going to be able to meet him there. That was a really smart jungle path by Makote, just because he was expecting Shyvana to actually run into his red and kind of harass him, but now that he's went back, shopped, gotten health pots, gotten more wards, he doesn't really have to worry about that Shyvana counter jungling.
Yeah, and also he warded. Yeah, it looks like a lot of pain going down and exhaust going down onto Mackler. Liebig's going to drop extremely low. And looks like we are back in real time. Yeah, Liebig falling extremely low, however, he is going to get out of that alive. And talking back on Makoto's jungle, he actually put a ward in that top golem brush, so they are really trying to get sight.
They have so much knowledge of Shyvana's jungle. They've actually been pinging like crazy every time she walks past a ward, and then pinging the potential gank path. So Kennen knows exactly where Shyvana is, and there's no way that if Shyvana wants to try a gank up here that it's going to work. So really strong early game by MYM with all of those wards, as we're having a bit of trouble with this spectator mode, but really bottom lane, getting dumped on a little bit. The Graves Alistar getting over-harassed by Corki and Janna. Alistar has not been able to level up that heal yet, so the sustain is not coming into play, and Acer definitely has the advantage early on in that bottom lane.
Yeah, and that is the early aggression we were talking about from Acer, as we have a couple of hiccups. No problem, and it looks like, as you mentioned, that Graves Alistar is taking a lot of punishment, and that Janna shield is really helping out Corki, being able to jump in, put some pain down, and really take advantage in this lane early game.
Yeah, taking a look at the mid lane also, we see Orianna and Morgana. The minion kills are actually fairly open, but Orianna has a large advantage in this lane. Pretty much Orianna has free range and just auto attack, and as we see that, Amumu and Shyvana are coming in for each other. They do not know Amumu's in this bush, but he did get sight of Shyvana, so this could be very bad for Acer. Amumu managed to sneak into that bush, and no, he's just going to walk right out through the ward. Never mind.
Yeah, Makote sitting there trying to make something happen, but it looks like they spotted him. Great ward by Shyvana to be able to pick him up. And bottom lane, Pookie Style and Super A's really pressing this lane, trying to make something happen. Do you feel we could potentially see a tower dive from this Pookie Style Super A's combo?
I really don't think so. They're pretty content just taking the lane advantage here. They have a 7 minion kill advantage, as well as the being pushed up to the tower, but with strong wards. The thing about when the enemy has an Amumu in the jungle, his ganks are extremely weak, so your lanes can therefore play much more aggressive, which might be one of the reasons that Pookie Style and Super A's are doing so well in this lane. Not only do they have slightly more burst, but they're able to stay pushed up so far, because as you see Makote trying to get this gank down, if he wants to go through the river, they have it warded, and if he wants to come through the lane, he can't really do that since Amumu ganks are relatively weak.
Yeah, and Makote not able to really do much. However, looking at mid lane, it looks like they're pretty even on farm, with Morgana at 31 minion kills to Orianna with 40. Orianna starting to pull ahead a little bit, but Morgana did pick up those sorcerer shoes, so she's going to be able to push a little bit harder with that extra magic penetration. Meanwhile, looking top lane, we've got Kennen at 28 minion kills to Shen's 39. Shen actually really jumping ahead in this matchup.
Yeah, look at all the wards that MYM is placing around the map. Everywhere Shyvana goes in the jungle, they have complete vision. So MYM really knows that they need to get to the team fight phase, that they can't lose early game. So because of that, they're just dumping hundreds and hundreds of gold into ward. Look at that ward by Morgana, warding that red buff as well. They have 3 wards in the red side of Shyvana's jungle alone. So they're giving up a bit of gold for early wards just to make sure they don't fall hopelessly behind. They're okay investing early so that they can get safely to late game.
Yeah, and also looking at Alistar picking up that pink
And there's
ward.
pink wards down bottom.
Yeah, and that is exactly what I was just saying. Alistar looking to take control of this Tribush early, also to potentially help out that Amumu being able to make something happen bottom lane.
Yeah, so this Amumu is actually up to a very good start. He gets that Philosopher's Stone. He has not been counter-jungled by Shyvana yet. He has only 2 fewer minion kills. No ganks have happened. They're losing the lane slightly because, Amumu doesn't really have any lane presence, and Acer's able to play very aggressively. But as far as the, large scale of this game, they're in really good shape here, because if they can all hit 6, and get the first team fight with the Mumu ult, Morgana ult, and Kennen ult, they're most likely going to win that fight, and that will translate very well into the rest of the game.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see where MYM decides to make that first engagement when they're able to hit 6. You know, looking at this bottom lane, Graves 39 minion kills to Corki's 48, so that early aggression from Acer really paying off in that bottom lane. However, as you mentioned, Amumu being able to get that early Philosopher's Stone, not getting counter jungled as much as we would expect with a Shyvana there, and all credit to MYM for their incredible wards.
The only thing that's surprising me a little bit is Shen beating up Shinku in the top lane there on Kennen. Kennen should have an advantage on that Shen, but he's down actually by 7 minion kills. I was expecting him to actually be a bully in that lane, as we see blue buff getting handed off to each mid lane respectively. But yeah, everyone on MYM has hit level 6 before any successful Shyvana ganks or Shyvana pressure has been applied. So if they start forcing, you know, group team fights around Dragon, you know, that's what they should be looking to do here, because they need to start taking advantage of hitting level 6 here.
Yeah, and actually, if you look at the jungle, Amumu actually has equal minion kills to Shyvana, and that is definitely not what Shyvana wants. As we see, Wakata going in, trying to get some vision on Shyvana. I believe he did see her, and Wakata being so aggressive with this Amumu jungle.
Yeah, they have a ward in that red buff, so he was probably looking to do something aggressive, as we have a aggressive play from Amumu, but he burns Flash on the Orianna in the mid lane. So Flash down on Orianna, the first kind of aggressive play we've seen thus far this game, and you know, it burns the Flash of the mid lane.
Yeah, and Liebek actually being forced to pop his Flash, as well as Pookie style and Super Rays getting really aggressive in that bottom lane, but they aren't really able to make anything happen, and looks like it's going to be back to farming.
Yeah, so the big thing about this top lane matchup for Shen is you look at him right now and he has 92 magic resistance with just Mercury Treads and a null magic. So he ruined really magic resist heavy against this Kennen, and Kennen is not really doing that much physical damage. So that is probably why Shen is able to do so well in that lane, and that's leading to, you know, the very brief 500 gold advantage, now about 400 that Acer's been able to accumulate thus far.
Yeah, and looking back at that top lane, Kennen was actually able to get that minion kill. There was a pretty big discrepancy. I believe Shen was up about 15, but now looks like Kennen is
6.
Yeah, he's drawing even. However, as you mentioned, Kennen not really able to poke this Shen in the top lane because of that magic resistance.
Yeah, Amumu now just hitting level 7, really keeping up with Shyvana here. So props to MYM just all over the place. The amount of warding and deep warding that they're doing. If you look at how into the jungle all those wards are, they have the upper Wraith Brush warded. That's the extremely, I want to know exactly where the other jungler is ward. All over the place. They have pretty much every jungle exit warded, so if Shyvana ever wants to go to a lane or go into the river, they will see her. And that's pretty much why this game is still 0-0, because of the defensive play of MYM and the ability of them to ward everything.
Yeah, at 10 minutes, only about a 300 gold advantage in favor of Acer. However, this early in the game, that really isn't that substantial.
No, it's really not. It's all going to be about the first team fight as Amumu tries to sneak in. There's no ward here on Orianna, so if they combo this, they're going to be able to get Orianna, and I think this is going to work.
Yeah, great binding from Charu. There's the ultimate. The bandage toss coming in. However, the counter ultimate from Celeber. There's the ultimate from Amumu, but a great jump in from Lawbro, and here comes Shen. That was an incredible first blood from Acer. Great ult from Shen to be able to come in as
Acer
bottom lane.
Picks up a kill in the bottom lane as well. The Alistair got a little too greedy and got taken out by Corki. So it's a 2 quick kills there for Acer. The big power of having that Shen top lane turning around the first act of aggression from MYM. It's actually pretty funny because MYM have been playing cautious, waiting, and it turns out that Acer actually had the advantage at level 6, because no matter where that first fight turned out, Shen was going to be able to arrive.
Yeah, and also Celeber being able to land that ultimate, as we see Shen going in. However, the Black Shield going out, and Charo's gonna walk out, allowing the Knight to be burned. Celeber really low, so if Charu lands a binding, he might be able to do something about it. However, his ultimate is down. And yeah, great play from Acer, being able to pick up both of those kills as well as the first blood, especially from that Shen.
So the big thing about this Shen, though, is he actually has a 180 to 200 second ultimate cooldown. So the fact that Kennen is running back up to top lane surprises me a little bit. When Shen is up there, there's now a 200 second window where he can't be anywhere. What MYM should be doing right now is they should be trying to force an objective like Dragon to get back the 2 kills they just gave up. They need to get some of this gold back, and they can't just sit back and passively wait for Shen's ult cooldown to come back, because they need to take advantage of that being down right now.
Yeah, it actually looks like top lane Kennen picking up a Cage's lucky pick. So really trying to supplement that income and build into the late game. What do you think about that item grab?
It just goes to show what his strategy is going to be here. So they pick Kennen in the top lane, which is normally, you know, a very aggressive laner and someone you want to start early team fights with. But the fact that he's went with double gold generation items tells me he does not want to be aggressive. It tells me he wants to wait for the late game. So it's something about MYM. They would really like to just stall this game and wait for the team fight phase.
Yeah, and it looks like Mokade getting caught, potentially no slow going out from Celeber, just going to get a little bit of harass down. Mokade being forced to pop that health potion. Meanwhile, bottom lane, Pukistyle and Super Ace getting hyper aggressive. If we look at that tri-brush in the bottom lane, we see that aggressive pink warding that we were, you know, expecting from Acer. So bottom lane really looking to make something happen. You know, 12 minutes, 40 seconds, 16,100 gold to 14,800 gold. Acer starting to pull ahead with that 2-kill-to-0 lead.
I'm really just, I was really liking MYM's play up until the point where they decided that they're going to continue to be passive with that Shen ult down. They really need to take advantage, you know, of that ultimate cooldown being down. If they just continue to get bullied around by Acer and let Acer get stronger and stronger than them, teamfight compositions are good, but you need to take advantage of them before the other team gets ahead of you. And they're letting Acer slowly pull ahead. They should be forcing something here, and I'm quite disappointed that they're not.
Yeah, as Celeber picks up that blue buff, we see Morgana in that middle lane, 125 minion kills to Orianna's 128, so she is holding steady. However, Orianna has that chalice. She does have that 1 assist from that middle lane gank. And bottom lane, Mackler actually holding steady with minion kills from Pukistyle. However, as we see a ton of aggression coming down out from Celeber. Will Celeber go down? No! But in another incredible counter gank. However, a bandage toss going down from Celeber. There's the ultimate, and Mokade will be able to pick him off. However, he is in a heap of trouble, and that is a double kill for Celeber. Great play again from 760 on that Shen.
Yeah, and now with that Shen ultimate coming in, getting the 2-for-1 kills, Acer's going to be able to go down for Dragon. And that was exactly what we talked about. They needed to take advantage of the Shen window. Instead, they waited just too long, and Shen was able to turn around another kill mid. So now it's 4 kills to 1 and a Dragon for Acer. This is looking very, very good for them. Those Shen ults coming in extremely, extremely handy, and, you know, coming up exactly the right moment.
Yeah, 14 minutes, 11 seconds, first Dragon of this game 1, 19,500 gold for Team Acer as compared to 17,200 gold for MYM, 4 kills to 1. Acer really building that advantage.
Yeah, and at this point for MYM, there's not much for them to do because last time they burned the Shen ultimate, it was about forcing an objective, but now, you know, they waited, they let Shen use his ultimate again, and now the objective is gone. So as far as MYM trying to pull something off here, a Moonwell and Morgana ult are both down, they have to wait on those cooldowns. They're probably just going to end up having to wait for Shen cooldown on his ultimate to come up again, and this is going to keep happening over and over unless MYM does something about it, because every time they're going to try to get aggressive, that Shen ult's going to be back up, and he's going to turn something around with it.
Yeah, and it looks like bottom lane, Corki's actually building out. He already built out his Sheen, so it looks like he's going to be going for that Trinity Force. Graves, on the other hand, picking up that BF sword. However, Pukistyle is hitting like a truck at this moment, especially with that Janna shield.
Yeah, that bottom lane has been working out really well for Corki. They got that 1 kill. The minion kills are actually extremely close, but they've been pushed up to that tower pretty much the entire game, which really just means they haven't been in any danger. All of the Amumu ganks have been middle. He hasn't even been able to think about being in bottom lane, so it's really just been all about Corki and Janna just doing whatever they want, and then Mackler has done a really good job at just, you know, getting those minion kills on the tower to stay in the game. But as far as the dynamics of that lane go, Acer has been crushing it.
Yeah, and speaking of that mid lane, I'm actually really surprised that we haven't seen as much roaming. However, Celeber has been putting so much pressure.
This could be really bad for
And Mokade coming in, bandage going down. However, missing the snare. Celeber going in to try and counter initiate. Mokade is going to be able to walk out. I don't think they're going to be going for the tower dive. However, Celeber, once again, putting so much pressure down on that Morgana. And wow, LoL Pro going in, taking out Charu under his own tower. Celeber walking out with a sliver of health, and LoL Pro potentially trying to dive Mokade. Doesn't look like it. Yep, there goes LoL Pro with the shield. Will they be able to drop him? Yes, they will. And nice burning play. The ultimate. Celeber's going to walk out with a sliver of health. He has less than 100 health, and LoL Pro just does not care about those towers.
Yeah, Celeber actually went to 8 health with that last Orianna shield as they were diving that tower. Just really strong play there. Shyvana is starting to pull so far ahead of Amumu that Amumu just doesn't have much left. He, you know, burned the ultimate. He's now 2 levels behind the Shyvana. You know, 1 kill, 3 deaths, 2 kills for Shyvana as well. So this game's starting to slip away from MYM because even though they have such a strong team fight team, all they've been doing is skirmishing. Acer has a huge skirmish advantage because of that Shen ult, because of the mobility of Shyvana, and just because of all of the shielding they can throw out, with Janna, Shen, and Orianna. So huge advantage for Acer, and they are playing to their advantages, whereas MYM not able to force any team fights, and that's really what they have to do.
And here comes the Shen ult bottom lane as Pookie Style goes in for the dive. He does get ignited, but there is 760. Will he be able to make something happen? Ignite going down. 760 is going to take out Shen, and Liebig in a heap of trouble underneath his tower. That's a double kill for 760. Doing work. He's 3-0-2. He has his wits end. 140 minion kills. Really impressive play from him so far.
He has made every single ultimate count with that extremely long cooldown. That's exactly what you have to do on Shen, and it's really just been on MYM. They're spacing out their aggression where they need to be doing it in bursts, because every time they go aggressive, the Shen ult is there to just shut them down. That's now 8 kills to 1, and at this point, because Kennen went for the gold generation route, he's not even able to take advantage when Shen leaves the lane to go other things. So it's really just strong play by 760, being able to beat up Kennen so much that he made Kennen go for that double GP10, and now Shyvana just kind of going wherever she wants inside that lane, and it's looking extremely good for Acer. Their skirmish team pulling pretty far ahead.
Yeah, and Shinku in a bit of trouble, dropping below 50%, and we had said earlier, as we see Shyvana coming up, continuing to not care about towers. Kennen flashing in, however, the ultimate taking him out. LoL Pro, so scary right now. And we had mentioned that he was having a little bit of trouble early with that counter jungling, but he is having no trouble now.
Yeah, and the big thing about the Shyvana right now is LoL Pro has picked up an Oracle, so all of that deep warding that MYM was doing is going to stop, because as Shyvana runs around the jungle, they're just going to clear the wards, and it will give MYM even less control than they already have. So they weren't able to get aggressive, and they were trying to play cautious around Shyvana. That hasn't worked thus far, and now it's only going to be even more punishing, since they will not be able to see where Shyvana is coming from. So strong Oracles pick up there by LoL Pro. You want to pick up the Oracles once you have a large lead like this, because they're trying to snowball this to victory.
Yeah, and speaking of pressure, bottom lane, Corki with that Phage actually forcing a flash from Alistar, and that's slow, and he is starting to pull ahead in that lane. We see him putting a ton of damage out with that Sheen Burst, as well as that Phage slow. Mokate coming in to try and make something happen. He misses the bandage toss. Exhaust going down onto Pookie Style. Looks like they're just going to try and walk out of it. Will Mokate try to land the bandage toss? Doesn't look like it, and MYM trying to make something happen, but not having that much success.
Yeah, and that's one of the unfortunate things about having an Amumu jungle. His ganks are very kind of weak without, good things to chain off of, and Acer has been pushed up and so aggressive so much in this lane that just, they haven't even been pressured that much, so they were able to easily flash away from that Amumu gank, and he is falling really far behind of Shyvana. Here they're trying again for a gank, and maybe they can convert it this time.
Yeah, bandage toss landing, nice. And Mokate is able to do it. He has the ultimate. There's the ultimate on Pookie Style. Pookie Style did Valkyrie out. Will he be able to go there? There's the Shen ultimate. Will he be able to turn it around again? 760 coming in. Will he be able to land the taunt? Mokate extremely low. Selver coming in to join the party. He is going to drop Mackler. Mokate dropping extremely low, and 760 and Selver. Such a scary combination. That is a 3-for-1 exchange in favor of Team Acer.
And they pinged the dragon just right. They knew exactly when it was come out. Great timing. You saw the pings about 10 seconds before it came up. Those Shen ults, you can see why he is so heavily banned in so many of these tournament games, and really Acer is just showing why. Really good play by Shen in the top lane. Kennen, he's taken the tower, but their team is down by 10 kills. They need to start team fighting, because they're so far behind at this point, they might not even be able to win team fights, but they sure as heck can't win skirmishes, and they need to stop staying in their lanes and playing passive. They actually have to start trying to make aggressive moves. The Shyvana Oracles is clearing everything. They just got the red buff there, and it's really just Acer is in complete control, and I do not see MYM trying to respond. They're just kind of letting this happen to them. They need to start using their teamfight ultimates together. They have to group, and they have to teamfight.
Yeah, and speaking of being a little bit behind, Kennen actually going for a second gold generation item, and he does have that needlessly large rod and the chain vest, so we may see a Zonius coming out from him. However, 21 minutes in, almost 34,000 gold in favor of Acer to 26,000 for MYM, 12 kills to 2 towers to 1, and 2 dragons. So Acer really in control of this match.
Yeah, getting back to that top lane matchup a little more, this just kind of goes to show, sure, gold per 10 items are good for getting you somewhat farmed, but they're really bad for your team if the other guy takes advantage of you. And that's exactly what Shen has been doing to Shinku here into the top lane, because he was essentially able to ignore Kennen once he bought that Heart of Gold and Cage's lucky pick, and look what that Shen did to the map. 4 kills, 0 deaths, 5 assists, to Kennen not being involved in anything. All he's done is taken a tower, and it's really just been Shen taking over the game since Kennen had no pressure on it.
Yeah, it looks like Charu trying to make something happen bottom lane. However, with that great warding from Super A's, I don't think he's really going to be able to do anything. Even going in for this lane gank, he's going to get seen.
Yeah.
And going back to that Shen, 760 also has that psychological advantage where they just have no idea where he's going to come from, and he's had such incredible timing that it's really putting MYM on their back foot.
Yeah, they have a timer on this blue buff, I believe. They're all 3 running in, about to take control. They've killed now 2 wards in that blue brush, so complete control by Acer. Everything on the map. There's actually only 1 living ward for MYM, and it's inside a dragon, which has already been cleared. So Amumu just kind of hopelessly running around, hoping to find a team fight, but pretty much, you know, they can't gain an advantage here. They're going to try to get a pick here on Morgana, but if Shen comes in for this ultimate, they might even be able to turn around a 2v3, and no, they're just going to end up backing away. Total control by Acer.
Yeah, and Celiver also showing off the power of Orianna, not only in terms of damage, but in terms of utility with that speed boost, just being able to get out of danger right away as Liebig makes a little bit of aggression. However, Pookie style is welcoming it, Liebig falling dangerously low. Will they be able to drop him? Yes, they will. Liebig going down, and potentially a double kill. Yes, it's going to be a double kill for Pookie style Super A's. Fantastic play from that Corki Janna lane.
Yeah, so Corki actually hit his big item before Graves did. You see he completed the Trinity Force, and that is pretty much, if the only damage item you're building, or you want to get as strong as you can, as early as you can on Corki, you build the Trinity Force. Whereas Graves just has a pickaxe and a BF sword, so he's really not that strong right now. So the fact that Alistair and Graves tried to aggress them 2v2 was pretty much a huge mistake, because Corki with the Trinity Force is going to win that trade almost every time.
Yeah, and speaking of trades, Corki actually dropping Charu's Morgana down to about 50%, so he is hitting so hard, and I'm excited to see what they're going to be able to do moving on in this game. Exhaust going down, however, there is a great flash from Mokade. Snare going down onto 760. He is dangerously low. He was able to flash and dash. Fantastic flash and dash from 760.
That was crazy. MYM thought they finally had a bit of a comeback kill onto Shen there, and he was just like, nope, I still have all my summer spells, and was able to just flash and dash out of the tower, through the wall, and out of the Morgana ult. So they actually managed to burn Amumu and Morgana's ult there while picking up a kill and while not dying themselves. So that total control they have over the map is just getting bigger and bigger. MYM doing their darndest to try to ward up the jungle there, and I have a feeling when Shyvana runs through their necks, those wards are just going to say bye-bye.
Yeah, and speaking of major items, Kennen finally picking up that Zhonya's Hourglass, going to be able to get that 3 seconds of invulnerability, and Morgana still trying to pick her Zhonya's up. So I feel like the original composition was for that double Zhonya's composition with the Amumu Initiate, but MYM having a lot of trouble being able to set those ganks up. Yeah,
they just have not been able to get there. This was the fear of picking a team composition like Amumu, Morgana, Kennen. You're so area of effect focused that if the other team forces skirmishes on you and you are not able to force team fights, you're just going to fall really far behind. And then by the time you're actually able to realistically get team fights, which would be around now, they're so far behind that their confidence in winning team fights is extremely low. So even if they get the perfect engage, you know, 5-man Amumu ult, 5-man Kennen ult, 5-man Morgana ult, there's a chance they'd still lose that fight. So they really have to pick their fights at this point, and they have to group up, which, you know, easier said than done against a split pushing Shen.
Yeah, 25 minutes in, 42,500 gold as compared to 31,000 gold, 14 kills to 2, 4 towers to 1. Acer in incredible control of this match.
I'm really wondering how they're going to try to close this one out, because thus far they've just been kind of roaming around, taking the outer towers, avoiding team fights in general, but eventually they're just going to have to buck up and have a team fight in order to push through the rest of the map. I think they have a large enough lead now that they're confident doing that, so they're either going to try forcing something around a Baron, or they're just going to start 5-man pushing towers, because they probably feel like they're at a point where they can start realistically taking on a huge AoE team comp like MYM has, just because they have such a huge gold advantage and so much map control.
Yeah, and Pookie style actually picking up the quick Sorrow Sash, so he definitely does not want to be stunned by this area of effect composition. So definitely ensuring that he's going to be able to put that amount of damage that he has, opting for that defensive item instead of going for potentially an Infinity Edge or a Bloodthirster. And yeah, it looks like Acer's going to be going for this Baron. We see 760 and LoL Pro posturing on it, and they're just going to try and duo it.
Yeah, and they're actually going to be able to pull this off, I'm pretty sure, because MYM is so terrified of going into their jungle, and they're so split up still, despite having this teamfight comp. that Acer might just be able to take this by themselves. We see Kennen and MYM actually going down and checking, and this could be a bad fight for MYM.
Yeah, great ultimate going down, pulling Mokate back. Mokate falling extremely low. Celeber's gonna take him out. He's on a rampage. Chinku, meanwhile, in a heap of trouble. Will Shen be able to land the taunt? Mackler and Charu coming in with backup. However, Pookie Style and Super A's putting pressure on that bottom lane, and
yeah,
I would not be surprised if that 3v4 would go in favor of Acer if they fought.
Yeah, this is actually a split push Baron, and it's working out very well. MYM trying the only thing they can do here and trying to push mid. They're afraid to actually contest those 3 guys at Baron, and they're just letting Corki and Janna split push that bottom lane. So all wins here for Acer. I think they're even going to engage in a 3v4 here, and they might even come out on top.
Yeah, it looks like...
MYM's just running away. They have to go defend that tower. There's nothing they can do here. They're completely contained.
Yeah, Chinku actually popping the Lightning Rush to drop back. 760 trying to catch Liebig. He does get the taunt down, is able to drop a bit of health off him, but he's going to walk out. Meanwhile, here's Chinku coming in. We have the engage. Mackler following extremely low. However, Pookie Style getting grabbed. There's the Morgana ultimate and the Kennen ultimate. So much damage going out. Super Ace is going to drop. However, Pookie Style igniting out Liebig. Liebig is going to drop as well. Pookie Style is on a rampage, and MYM once again on their back feet. As we see Charu getting grabbed, Celeber is unstoppable. He is 6-1, 300 minion kills, has that Zonias, has that Abyssal Scepter, as well as another needlessly large rod. That is a scary Orianna.
Yeah, and that was actually something that should have turned out really poorly for Acer, but the fact that they were so far ahead, they got away with it. Corki and Janna actually got collapsed on pretty much 2v5, and it was a long time until the rest of Acer was there for support, and all that ended up happening is they lost Janna. So it really wasn't that bad at the end of the day. They've only given up 3 kills this entirety of the game. They got the inhibitor, which is the big milestone for these games. Once you have an inhibitor, you can kind of start forcing skirmishes once again. They actually managed to do that without forcing any big team fights, so super skirmish heavy and super good execution by Acer this entire match.
Yeah, as we approach 29 minutes, a 15,000 gold lead for Acer. So strong, 17 kills to 3, 7 towers to 1, and they actually still haven't taken the Baron.
Yeah, and I think that's only a matter of time. They look to all be running down towards it. They have, or at least they will have, a couple wards placed up into MYM, and if MYM tries to come and defend Baron, they're just going to peel and fight. This is closing time here for Acer. They've taken a huge advantage. They've taken an inhibitor. Now it's time to just get Baron and go and finish the game.
Yeah, and looking forward, I cannot wait to see what Acer is going to be doing against Curse EU as well as SK, because they are putting on a dominant performance. So it'll be really exciting to see what they're going to be able to do in this group stage. And MYM, great team composition, but Acer really just able to dominate them.
I think at the end of the day, this pretty much all came down to 760 and his Shen play, because a lot of those early ganks by Amumu would have worked if Shen's cooldown did not sync up so well with their execution. It was just a matter of him always being, you know, on the right cooldown to be able to stop a fight, and it just continually snowballed over and over onto MYM to a point where they couldn't even win team fights anymore. So if these teams were to match up again and they did not have Shen on Acer, I think we'd see a much, much different game. But, you know, with the way it played out, great play by Acer.
Yeah, especially 760. As you mentioned, that Shen actually taking out Kennen, which we had thought was going to be a lane that would be advantageous for Chinku. Celeber going in, trying to make something out. Great ultimate onto Mokade. There's LawPro jumping in. Fantastic snare, however, LawPro's going to continue to chase. There's a great ultimate from Charu, getting in the middle of them. However, Pookie Style, there's the... Wow, incredible play from Acer. That is a cleanup, and they're potentially going to be able to push in to the space. Double kill for Pookie Style, and a fantastic initiate from Celeber.
Yeah, really good play there. You actually saw Morgana and Kennen got a full ult on pretty much the entire team, but it just wasn't there. Acer showing how far ahead they are. They look to be able to push into the base with these inhibitors, and these spawn timers look a little bit long. Acer should be able to clean up this one and finish.
Yeah, great play from Acer, and 760 once again working with LawPro to jump in and immediately put pressure. They actually pushed Mackler out of that fight, and that is going to be GG for Team Acer. Well done, and well played by MYM as well.
I gotta say, MYM had pretty good team composition picks. They just failed a little bit on execution. They weren't able to force team fights like they needed to that game. And overall, that was just great, great skirmish play. And they really showed the power of the Orianna in the middle lane, because they turn around pretty much every big gank.
Yeah, so Jat, final thoughts on this match moving forward in this Group A.
Acer with a really, really strong showing, but you know, that could just be because Acer's amazing. It doesn't mean that MYM is necessarily behind the curve. They had kind of a bad game, and it got away from them. If the game ever gets away from you when you're running an AoE comp like they were running, you know, it looks a lot worse than it actually is. So even though they lost this game 22-3, that was really all about falling a little bit too far behind early and not being able to come back. As they move on to teams like SK and Curse you know, it's still wide open. MYM, apparently very team composition focused. They just need to do a little bit better job at executing